Hi, hello everybody. Welcome back to the Serene View. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, the Serene View is my weekly video podcast about all things to do with conscious business. And for this season, we are really looking at one of the biggest crises facing people at the workplace, which is workplace mental health. And today, we have Chuen Chuen, who is a business leader as well as a coach, to join us to talk about her personal workplace health, workplace mental health journey. And a little bit about Chuen Chuen. She's the founder of her own consulting and coaching firm called Acesence. She's also a member of Forbes Coaches Council. And for the last 2 years, last year and this year, she's been voted Singapore's best agile leadership development coach. So welcome, Chuen Chuen. Welcome.
Thank you, Serene. Thanks for inviting me. Very happy to be here.
Yes. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit? Just let us know more about you.
Sure. So my name is Chuen Chuen. Chuen Chuen is my given name. My family name is Yeo. So depending on which part of the world you're coming from, you may call me Chuen Chuen Yeo or Yeo Chuen Chuen. So I'm an author, executive coach for the Fortune 500. I work with the senior officers in the Singapore Civil Service as well. At the same time, I speak about women leadership, speak about agile leadership, and I design and facilitate workshops as well. So why did I specialize in leadership agility? Because I believe this is exactly what organizations and leaders need today to grow the agile mindset, because we all want to sustain success in both career and life. So I'm really devoted to this cause of uplifting leadership globally.
Well, I'm glad to hear about this, and let's talk a little bit about what your journey has been, right? If you could just share with us briefly your own journey through mental health.
Sure. I think mental health has always been an essential part of my work, because a lot of what I do is enabling my clients, leaders who are in positions to create large impact in the organization. So I need to ensure that I am able to support and connect with them both cognitively and emotionally. So I've always been paying attention to how I myself am feeling, because if my mental health is compromised, my effectiveness as the executive coach would suffer as well. So in my book that I wrote, I talked about the fact that everyone will experience stress, and that is the same for me. And I'm sure it's the same for everyone who is viewing, who is listening to this interview today. It's just whether the stress is a good one or the bad one. So I think there's a phase in my life where the stress was good, as in I could see good outcomes. I was driven. I was very motivated to achieve more and more. And it just comes to a point where I realized that maybe some of the stress is starting to show up in a negative way. So there's the bad stress versus the good stress, right? So for me, it was always constantly finding that balancing point between the good stress and the bad stress. Because not only am I an executive coach, and plus designing leadership workshops and stuff like that, I need to also think like an entrepreneur, which is something in my personal journey, something very new to me. I was always very good with the content development, the delivery, but as an entrepreneur, there were many, many skills I had to learn. I had to be alert, strategic, because everything can be so costly. So I think that sensing of what the balance is was really important for me.
Yes. And I understand too that you have quite a large, I don't know where you're listening from, but for Singapore, she has quite a large family. And I think those were also stresses for you as well, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think there is always this challenging gender norms. When I decided to step out and to be an entrepreneur, it meant that I needed a lot of support from family, especially my husband. And that's something that I need to negotiate with him, which of course I'm very thankful for the support that he has given me over these years. But sometimes the pressure comes internally, and I think that's harder to fight. The feelings of guilt, like, oh my God, I forgot my son had spelling that day. I'm such a terrible mother. Then you beat yourself up. And because I'm perfectionist by nature, I'm not very self-compassionate to myself naturally. So I really need to watch out for such self-talk, because it can really bring my mental health down.
What were the first signs that you showed up in your life that you weren't kind of like on top of things anymore?
When I lost the balance, right? So first signs, I think from daily activities, you will know. I know I started not sleeping well. And then one thing resulted into another. I get a lot of muscular tension. My mind is on going into overdrive all the time. And that is just how I am wired, because my Gallup strengths profile, from that profile, I know that I'm very much a thinker. And if I am stressed out, I will think even more, And so I think basic things like not sleeping well, you have so many thoughts in your mind, but you don't have time to implement them, which then increases the overall stress and the anxiety of feeling of not being productive. I think another thing I noticed was this mixed feeling. Like I would get a new deal, which is I think quite a big deal. In the past, I'll be like, oh, overjoyed, oh my God, all my hard work of building the business has paid off. But there's that little nagging feeling that, oh, there's more work coming in. It's like, oh my God, there's so much more to be done. So it's kind of those mixed feelings, that tension that constantly happening on a everyday basis, that tells me, that something's off balance.
Well, I mean, it sounds like very similar to what I've been through. I think for those of you who have watched my channel will know that I also went through a period of burnt out last year. And it sounds exactly the same. I stopped sleeping. I mean, I hurt all over. My muscles was aching. And I just couldn't deal with work as usual. I mean, I wasn't answering my emails. I was like what you said, when deals came in, we are like, oh, no, not more work for me. Yeah. So I think that's really, I mean, it really sounds as though we have almost the same experience. But when did you start to kind of feel something is wrong? Because for me, it was quite a while when things went wrong before I finally went like, oh, okay, I have to go and get something done. When did you, I mean, what made you realize that something was wrong?
What made me realize? Okay, I think to qualify that, I think I still I was still very high functioning, and I was still delivering great results for people. And I think people who work with me, say my clients right now listening, they probably might be shocked. Huh, you feel that way too? I said, yes, I do. But I think the facade is that, I mean, externally, I'm still high performing. For me, the sign that tells me that something is wrong is when I have the mixed feeling. When a joyful event gives me the feeling of dread. To me, it was a totally conflicting state, because I chose this line. I went through a tough career transition, many years of preparation to get to where I am, and I got exactly what I wanted, and yet I'm not fully happy. So something's not clicking for me. Cognitively, it doesn't make sense. Rationally, I just can't figure it out. I know there's something else underneath it, and that's where I started doing something about it to really uncover what's really happening for me. While I'm growing in one aspect, what is happening on the other side. Yeah.
So, I mean, you mentioned about how you tried to look for help for yourself. So what did you do that really helped?
What I did was, I think what I noticed is that I had this sense of loneliness. I think last year there was quite a lot of coverage about executive loneliness. And as an entrepreneur, I think it's a lonely journey, because I think like Serene and I think Serene, you will understand, we chose this line, right? And there's this dream in our mind, in our head, right? And only we can understand it. And the lack of a tribe of people who can really understand you makes this journey lonely. So what I did to help myself is I ensure I find new tribe. It's like entering another season of my life when I realized that my previous tribe couldn't support me anymore because they don't understand. We are just at different stages in life, and it's about going out there to get to know more people, and naturally you will know who are the people who you can lean on, right? People who understand. That's one thing. So finding a tribe that can really support you to reduce the feeling of loneliness. The second thing I did was to really lean into my strengths, because I know from my Gallup strengths profile, thinking is a central part of what makes me good at what I do. So I need to be very disciplined to block out time routinely. So one thing that I did wrongly last time was my calendar was just open for anybody to book it. Anybody, any kind of activity. It could be a coaching conversation, it could be a networking, anything. And I realized that it doesn't work for me because I lost control over my calendar. So I then took back control gradually. First, I find my power routine. What's my routine? What's something that puts me in the best state, that allows me to think, connect with my body, reduce all those muscular tension. So I found that answer in Pilates. I factor in extra walking time to help me center my thoughts. So as I'm walking, all these creative things are happening in my mind. So I think it really supports me. So having a tribe, lean into your strength, know what makes you good in what you do, know what you need. You know, what are the structures you need to put in place? And for me, it was a power routine that helps me think, take control over my calendar. So right now, what I do is, while I still keep my clients my topmost priority, because I need to serve them well, right? I let them know in advance that I'm doing this because I want to serve you the best that I can. So I need to schedule our sessions 4 to 8 weeks ahead or even further. And really, I think that the last piece is really, I think, the self-talk, the self-compassion bit. When the things that I want to do are so many, I remind myself that it's a big elephant, and how do you eat an elephant? You eat an elephant by taking one bite at a time. So patience, you know, to eat this elephant really slowly.
Fantastic. And that sounds fantastic. I mean, I agree with you that a lot of these things were also stuff that I did for myself. I mean, I got off social media for 2.5, 3 months actually. I took out everything that wasn't necessary. So like you said, take back your routine, take back your calendar, take back the time for yourself. And I found exercise very helpful. I actually don't call it my power routine. I should call it that, power routine. But I just love to go for a walk. Yeah, because it sounds so much more empowering when you say it's a power routine, right? I just only say, oh, I go for a walk. So that doesn't sound so
I don't. Okay, thinking is my natural strength, right? I love thinking. I love connecting with people one-on-one. But you put me on a global stage and ask me to do a webinar, I tell you, it freaks me out big time. I know people won't believe it. When I shared it in one of my webinars just last month, they were like, really? You mean you are like having all these inner demons? I said, yes. I was having this inner critique and they were so loud. And what centered me was I cleared my calendar free of anything except the webinar. And I always start with my power routine. Like, nobody talks to me. I'm just talking to myself, just being with myself so that I can be at my best at the webinar.
I mean, for those of you who don't know, I mean, Chuen Chuen is married with 3 kids. So that is a huge ask. I mean, those of you who have kids probably know, to say that I want this time all to myself and please don't come and talk to me, it's a huge ask. I mean, personally and also professionally. So well done, girl. Do you think this would work for other business leaders? I mean, is this what you will also advise them to do?
I think definitely. So what happened when the pandemic happened was the demand for coaching actually exploded, right? Which I think it also results in me being involved in many more conversations, and all the conversations then become very stressful because everyone's trying to get a hang of what are the changes, make sense of it, and then respond because they have so many people that they are responsible for. So I think this advice about, taking care of yourself, be in touch with yourself, reserving time for yourself. This is something that may be a bit counterintuitive. Many people leaders I work with, they are highly responsible and they have a lot of high achieving traits, which then makes it hard for them to switch off, to let go, because so much is at stake, right? It's similar to when I'm building a business. It's the same. I can't make a mistake. If I make a mistake, this whole thing may just crumble. So a lot is at stake. But I think to focus on the now is really important. These few days, there's a lot of talk on LinkedIn, a lot of good articles, sharing on the LinkedIn news page, talking about mindfulness, bring the consciousness back. I think these are very, very important. So the advice I have for leaders is eat the elephant one bite at a time. Because if you just look at the ginormous task, it's just going to overwhelm you. And having that feeling of overwhelm is not a productive state. It doesn't serve you, right? So one thing I do, de-chunking, break down the task into smaller bits. I try to reduce the number of things I try to remember. Because I'm a thinker, so I will have like million thoughts in my head. I write it down. I will write it down. And I will then classify them and decide, should this go to the back burner? I know it's important, but is it urgent? Okay, is anything big going to happen if I don't deal with it now? Okay, maybe not. Shelve it. Just put it on the back burner. I think writing it down frees up my mind to do more creative work. That's one thing. So de-chunking and focus on the 2mm shifts that Anthony Robbins talked about, right? 2mm shift. Sometimes it's just so hard to push things through, right? But for leaders, we need to get people to be aligned. The last person in your team must be aligned with what you're trying to accomplish. And if we just focus on 2mm shifts, just move forward every single day. Even if it's just 1mm, I think it takes a lot of that stress away.
And do you think that there are stuff that leaders can do for their team? I mean, is there a way to kind of detect when people need help, for instance?
Definitely. I think from my personal reflection, when Serene, when you asked me to come on this show and share, I think the first thing is look at your high performance. Because in my case, I was still very high functioning. I was still delivering results. People will know it. People will think, Chuen Chuen, you are so confident. Oh my God, you have grown by leaps and bounds. Nobody will believe that you were a teacher for so long. And where did you acquire all these skills? I just observe people and I learned. But was it painful? Definitely. The process of transformation is tough. And it's highly stressful, right? So I think look at your high performers because they may continue to deliver great results, but it doesn't mean that they are not fighting the inner demons as I was, right? And I think I still am on some days, but I just a lot more awareness about it. And just fresh from LinkedIn today, an article that talks about a survey done by, I think, this thing called the Ginger app, and that the survey results was 96% of CEOs believe that the companies are doing enough for employee mental health, but only 69% of employees agree, right? So your high performers are the ones who are very self-driven. They are the ones who, if you send them an email on Friday evening, they will deliver it for you by Sunday night. So the pressure, the risk of imploding is very high, internal, because they are self-driven. You don't have to give them pressure. They drive themselves. In my coaching, I always focus on leaders' behavior. What are some small things that you do that will make a difference to people? I think the need for CEOs to do more, leaders to do more, middle managers to do more is there. And I think we can all start with communication style. In my book, I talk about tasks versus people. We are mostly, a lot of us from many cultures, we are task-driven, KPI-driven, and that's perfectly right. We need results to sustain the business. But at the same time, can we, through our communication style, infuse more people-centeredness, thinking about employee experience and making it as important as customer experience? Fair enough, sometimes we reward employees and show appreciation by giving them lavish lunch, the meals, expensive gifts. But for some people, it does make a difference. But look into everyday changes. The 2mm shifts, just what small things. For example, don't send email on Friday night telling people to do stuff. Then we have scheduling tools that help you send that email out later, right? Ask people how they are at the beginning of any check-in meeting. And I think these things do add up a lot.
And actually, I agree with you because just yesterday I had this conversation with a business associate where I kind of brought up that, hey, the way that she was talking to her team wasn't very appropriate. And what it was quite simply that they had difficulty because it was a Zoom meeting, okay? So they had difficulty communicating each other. They couldn't hear her very clearly. So she started speaking louder and louder. Now, when I speak louder on a natural basis, when I'm not stressed out and I'm relaxed, it just sounds like I'm speaking louder, like what I'm doing now. But when I'm stressed out, the amount of tension in my voice, it comes across extremely aggressive. So she was like, so how have you been? Are you all right now? Are we on top of things at the moment? And I was like, why were you yelling at them and screaming at them? They are doing their best. And she's like, they couldn't hear me. So I was yelling. I was like, no, it wasn't just louder. You were yelling and berating them. And she's like, I had no intention of doing it. But it's exactly like what you said, right? When I'm stressed out and I'm pressed for time, and on top of it, perhaps a little frustrated that my team couldn't even hear my instructions, never mind about the rest. That sense comes across. So I completely agree with you of this about communicating and being able to take care of people just through your words.
Yes. And I think if we extend it further, it's not just showing care and concern. It may go against the nature of some leaders where they are not like that. They are maybe more private in nature. So to keep it more professional, to give you a framing, I have this 5-part framework to help leaders grow the agile mindset. So I call them the 5 inner voices. And I think there are 2 that are especially relevant right now if leaders want to help their teams manage, mental health. The first one is the developer. The developer helps people grow. So think of how are you right now facilitating growth and making the growing process purposeful? How are you communicating it with people? How are you sussing out what people are really feeling, thinking about this new thing that they have to learn? Because I think this lifelong learning is something that won't stop. We need to give people the motivation to find growing purposeful. And the second inner voice that will help them is the visionary. We are changing, right? We have an evolving vision. Today, the menu for today and next week will change completely. We need to explain why we're changing the direction. How is it still meaningful? How does it sit with an entire organization? So I think even skills like storytelling or story selling are really essential. And I think more things that I see good companies that are doing better in this domain. They are offering employees coaching because it's a safe, confidential space. And people are extremely busy right now, and it takes a lot of discipline to take out time for themselves, but I found these conversations, even for myself, when I speak with my coach, that time is for me to process all the whirlwind of changes that's happening around me right now. Because if I make sense of it, then I will know how to respond to it. And that's where agility comes in.
Even as a coach myself, I found coaching to be extremely helpful. And I think, somebody said this, right? Like a coach is like paying a friend to listen to you. But I think having actually have friends, like now that I actually have friends, I found that it's not quite that. It's like paying a friend who knows what to say and who knows what she's doing to talk to you. Because a lot of the times, friends will, they will be on your side unconditionally, right? So when things go wrong, they'll be like, oh, how can that person, terrible, you should fight for your rights. But that may not be the most helpful, and that may not be the best in that situation. So actually being somebody who knows what they're doing, who is supportive, and yet have the tools to really help you to work through a situation, I personally as a coach found it wonderful.
Yes. I want to offer an alternative view of the role of a professional coach. Think of them as your strategic partner. Someone who has unconditional positive regard for you. And this person is professionally trained to pull magic out of you. Because this person will help you focus on the mindset. Instead of teaching you, training you in skills, we focus on the mindset first, which is the most difficult thing to shift, but it gives you the quantum leap, the huge investment, return on your investment. I think of my coach as my strategic partner, someone who is able to push me up to the next level. And I think for leaders right now, the bar is set very high. So we really need that.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with you. I mean, with leaders, without that support network, and as you mentioned about how lonely it is at the top, so having someone who is unconditionally on your side, who will be there to push you and to help you to achieve, I think that's really important.
Yes.
Let's take a look. There's some comments here. Oh, yes. Yuri was saying that friends also give advice, but maybe that's not what you need. Yes, we agree, yes. Yuri.
Yes. Maybe not be solution focused. I think the best thing about a coaching conversation is always solution focused, action focused. So every week after speaking with my coach, I'm moving more than 2 millimeters for sure. Sometimes I move 2 meters, you know, and you just need someone to unlock something in you that raises your motivation, your resilience, which are all positive things for somebody's mental health, right? The feeling of self-efficacy, the feeling that, I can do it. You mean there's something that I can really do? Yes, there's a way for me to make this mess less messy. And there's something that I can actually do. So I talk a lot about control, you know, like, do I have a sense of control over what's going to happen to me tomorrow? Of course, we need to manage that because a lot of things are out of our control, but we can control our response. We can, reduce our downtime, which is the processing time, I feel, because it's so... the common thing I see among my clients is they come in maybe with an energy level like this, like 2 out of 10, you know, and they leave with a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, much more confident that they can kind of conquer the world, you know, if I exaggerate a little bit, you know. But I think that's the beauty of the human spirit, that nothing can get us down if we get into the mindset correctly.
So, thank you very much. Thank you so much for being with us today, Chuen Chuen. I think the way that you have put it and the advice you have given to both leaders about themselves and about their teams was wonderful. I just want to check if anybody has any comments or questions. Yuri, if you have any questions, please feel free to throw it. Anything that you want to comment or ask Chuen Chuen about your personal situation? Yes. Oh, yes, Yuri does have a question. Why does it seem like everyone and their uncle is a coach nowadays?
Thank you for raising that. I got this feedback before, and I shared it like 2 days ago in one of the webinars I did. I sat down in MD's office, and he said, "You don't look like a typical coach. You're so young." And maybe the gender's wrong as well. So I just said, and I just be authentic, and I said, yeah, I just kind of fit into that typical mold of a stereotype, you know, and I think that's why I'm different. And that's why you should give it a try. Yeah.
Well, to answer your question, Yuri, I think it is because the need is so great. Yeah. Loneliness has been identified as one of the top mental health challenges at the moment. And things like anxiety as well as depression is going to cost the world $1 billion. That's what WHO has estimated. So yeah. I think right now there's so much need for somebody who is there for you, who is there for you unconditionally. Perhaps, I don't know, in all of our history, there's always been a tribe, there's always been, close friends and so on. But I think for a lot of us, that isn't kind of true anymore. There's been a breakdown of all these ties. And as a result, there is a demand for coaches. That's what Chuen Chuen said. Last year, there was like a huge demand of coaches. And maybe that's why everyone and their uncle has decided to be a coach. Okay. Yeah. Always glad to see the white stereotype.
Sorry, Serene. Can I just chip in a quick one?
Yeah, of course. Yes.
For coach, I think anybody can call them a coach, but understand that, the term coach, it may be generic, but in my world, and I think in Serene's world, we are talking about professional coaching, which is a different thing. So, for anyone exploring coaching, do find out what is coaching. Why is the coaching that will benefit you? Because it may be the same word, but it has a completely different meaning in my world.
Yes. And I think as coaches, we are glad that there are more people stepping up to the plate to be coaches, because I feel that the demand is so great, that there is a need for more of us to actually be there to help out.
Yes, and managers, even managers with coaching skills.
Yes, correct.
Very beneficial.
I also agree. Okay. So, any other comments, questions? I mean, if there's anybody who wants a question or comment, just feel free to throw it in. Yes? No? Okay. Well, if not, I mean, is there any last thing that you wanted to share or leave with us today?
I think I want to share this fundamental leadership teaching. I think it's the most important leadership learning I've had when I started this journey. So I started with John Maxwell's leadership program, and he said, "What you cannot give, what you do not have." Right. So for me as a coach, I couldn't give. I won't be able to give my best, or I won't be able to give good results, best results to my clients if I myself am not at the state. And for leaders leading in the workplace, managing lots of changes right now, if you cannot make sense of the vision, the new purpose, then it's hard to inspire. So you cannot give what you do not have. So I think personal mastery, connecting with self, sense making are extremely important. And that's why in my 5-part framework for leadership agility, the captain, the emotional mastery, personal mastery, that's always the first thing I look at. And I think that's extremely important for all viewers to consider.
So thank you very much. Thank you so much for coming by, Chuen Chuen, for sharing all of your insights and even for sharing your own personal journey. I think personally that there's a need for more leaders to step up and be authentic, and to essentially acknowledge that we all have a need for good mental wellness, for good mental well-being, and that yes, last year was really hard. And as a group, probably as humanity, we need to get together and make things better. So for those of you who want to connect with Chuen Chuen, this is Chuen Chuen's LinkedIn. I can't post comments to LinkedIn. I am so sorry. So you'll just have to look at it and Google Chuen Chuen Yeo. And this is her website. She's written a new book, so that's something that you can look at if you would like to be developed as a leader in a more agile way. So thank you so much. For those of you who would like to join me next week I'm speaking to the CHRO of the Bank of Pakistan. Asma is somebody who truly believed in helping her people to be more strong mentally and to be stronger and have better mental wellness. So she's going to share a little bit about her journey of how she's helping her organization and her staff to do so. So join me. It'll be next week, Thursday. Almost the same time. It's at noon Singapore time, 9 a.m. Pakistan time. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.